I suggested my 17-year-old son get drunk. My kid Tyler has always been this perfect straight-A student who never stepped out of line. He'd stay home on Friday nights doing homework while his friends were out partying. I was proud of that, don't get me wrong, but I also started getting worried he was missing out on being a normal teenager. The thing is, Tyler's going off to college in 3 months. He got into this really good school about 4 hours away, and I kept thinking about all these stories you hear about sheltered kids going completely wild their freshman year. You know, the kids who never touched alcohol suddenly binge drinking and ending up in the hospital because they have no idea what their limits are. So last Friday, Tyler comes home from school looking stressed as hell. Apparently his friends were all planning to go to some party that weekend, and they kept asking him to come. He was torn because he wanted to hang out with them, but he was also terrified of getting caught drinking. His friends had been drinking since sophomore year, but Tyler had never even tasted beer. I'm sitting there watching him pace around the kitchen, clearly anxious about the whole thing, and that's when this crazy idea popped into my head. I looked at him and said, "What if you tried drinking here first? You know, so you're not going in completely blind." Tyler's eyes went wide like I'd just suggested we rob a bank together. He was like, "Dad, what? Are you serious right now?" But I could see he was actually considering it. I explained my logic. Better for him to figure out his tolerance in a safe environment with me watching than at some random party where anything could happen. After about 20 minutes of back and forth, he agreed. I went to the garage and grabbed a 6-pack of beer I had left over from last weekend's barbecue. Nothing crazy, just regular light beer. I figured we'd start slow. We sat on the back deck, and I opened one for each of us. Tyler took this tiny sip and immediately made this disgusted face like he'd just eaten a lemon. I couldn't help but laugh. "It gets better," I told him, even though I still think beer tastes like garbage half the time. Over the next 2 hours, Tyler slowly worked his way through 2 beers while I had one. We just talked about random stuff, college, his friends, his anxieties about leaving home. It was honestly one of the best conversations we'd had in months. He loosened up in a way I hadn't seen since he was little, before he got all serious about grades and his future. By the end of the night, Tyler was definitely feeling it. Not drunk, but definitely buzzed. He kept giggling at everything and telling me I was actually pretty cool for an old guy. When we went inside, he hugged me and said thanks for treating him like an adult, instead of lecturing him about the dangers of drinking. The next morning, Tyler woke up feeling slightly rough, but not horrible. More importantly, when his friends invited him to that party Saturday night, he felt confident enough to go. He texted me around midnight saying he was having fun but staying responsible, and he was home by 1 a.m. completely sober because he'd learned his limits. Here's where it gets interesting, though. My wife came home Sunday from visiting her sister, and Tyler accidentally mentioned our practice drinking session. She absolutely lost her mind. Started screaming about how I was encouraging alcoholism and being a terrible parent. She said I should have just told him to say no to peer pressure like a normal parent would. But here's the thing. Tyler handled that party perfectly. He had a couple drinks, knew when to stop, and came home safely. Meanwhile, I found out later that 2 other kids from his school ended up getting their stomachs pumped that same night because they'd never drank before and went way overboard.